Sometimes, the people closest to us carry secrets we're not prepared to face. What would you do if someone you trusted with your heart and family was hiding their true nature behind a mask of love and respect? This is a story of deception, courage, and an unexpected revelation that changes everything. Welcome to Storytelling and Beyond. We bring you heartwarming tales filled with emotion, motivation, and life lessons. If you enjoy stories that inspire and touch your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these meaningful stories with you. It was a crisp autumn morning in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The streets were lined with golden and crimson leaves, crunching softly under the occasional footsteps of early risers. Inside the Johnson household, Kevin was preparing for a week-long business trip, bustling around the bedroom as the early sunlight streamed through the windows. His wife, Amanda, fluttered around him with what seemed like loving attentiveness, occasionally glancing toward the living room where Kevin's mother, Grace, sat quietly knitting by the window. Kevin was a devoted husband and son, balancing his responsibilities with genuine care for his family. Grace, a widow in her late 60s, was a gentle and wise presence in their home. She had moved in after her husband's passing, and though her relationship with Amanda appeared cordial on the surface, Kevin had sensed an undercurrent of tension he couldn't quite place. "Amanda, I can't thank you enough for taking care of Mom while I'm away," Kevin said, zipping up his suitcase. "It's a relief to know she's in good hands." Amanda smiled brightly, her voice sweet as honey. "Oh, Kevin, don't even mention it. Grace is family. I'm happy to look after her." Grace looked up from her knitting, her soft gray eyes meeting Kevin's with a reassuring smile. "Don't worry about me, son. Just focus on your work. Amanda and I will manage just fine." Kevin hugged them both before heading to the door. "I'll call every evening to check in. Take care, both of you." As the door clicked shut behind him, the warmth in Amanda's demeanor vanished. She turned to Grace with a cold, disinterested expression. "Well, I guess it's just us now," she muttered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Grace remained calm, her fingers resuming their rhythmic knitting. "Yes, just us," she replied softly, her tone steady. Amanda began tidying up the already neat living room, muttering under her breath about the endless burden of catering to everyone else's needs. Her words were sharp, but Grace chose not to react, her years of wisdom teaching her that silence often spoke louder than words. As the hours passed, Amanda's remarks grew increasingly pointed. "You know, Grace, for someone who doesn't do much, you sure have a lot of free time to knit," she said with a forced chuckle. Grace paused, her hands steady as she carefully placed her knitting needles down. "I'm sorry if it seems that way, Amanda. I'll try to help more around the house," she said gently. Amanda smirked, satisfied with the perceived submission, and retreated to the kitchen. Grace, meanwhile, gazed out the window, her thoughts far away. Later that evening, Kevin's expected phone call came, breaking the uneasy silence. Amanda's tone flipped like a switch as she answered the call, her voice brimming with warmth and affection. "Hi, honey. Everything is going wonderfully here. Grace and I are having such a lovely time together, right, Grace?" Grace nodded slightly, her serene expression unchanged. "Yes, Kevin. Everything is fine," she said softly, knowing her words would put his mind at ease. But unknown to both women, Kevin's phone accidentally redialed after the call ended, turning it into an inadvertent microphone. Kevin's heart sank as he overheard Amanda's voice shift once more. "You could at least pretend to be helpful, Grace," she snapped, the sweetness now replaced by irritation. Sitting alone in his hotel room, Kevin felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The loving facade Amanda had presented crumbled before his ears, leaving him with a growing suspicion and a resolve to uncover the truth. Kevin sat in his hotel room, the glow of the city lights filtering through the window as he replayed Amanda's cutting words in his mind. He couldn't reconcile the woman he thought he knew with the voice he had overheard. His instincts told him that there was more to Amanda's behavior than he could piece together from a single accidental call. He decided he needed to tread carefully to uncover the full truth. The following morning, Kevin called his childhood friend, Mark, who lived nearby and was someone Kevin trusted implicitly. Over a cup of coffee at a local diner, Kevin shared his concerns and the snippets of Amanda's words that had reached his ears. I don't want to jump to conclusions, Mark, Kevin said, his voice heavy with uncertainty. But something doesn't sit right. I need to know if this has been going on behind my back. Mark leaned back in his chair, his expression serious. You're doing the right thing by not reacting immediately, he said thoughtfully. But if you suspect something, you owe it to yourself and to your mom to find out the truth. Taking Mark's advice, Kevin made a decision. Before leaving for his next trip, he discreetly installed a small audio recorder in the living room of their house. He placed it carefully on a high shelf behind a decorative vase, ensuring it would remain out of sight. Kevin wasn't proud of the decision, but he justified it as a way to protect his family. The next day, Kevin returned to his routine of video calls with Amanda and Grace. Amanda appeared as cheerful and loving as ever, speaking in glowing terms about how well everything was going at home. Your mom and I are getting along wonderfully, she said, smiling brightly into the camera. She's been such a help around the house. Grace sat quietly in the background, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Her eyes briefly met Kevin's through the screen, and while her lips formed a faint smile, there was a quiet sadness behind her gaze. Kevin noticed it but said nothing, afraid of revealing his growing suspicions. When Kevin returned home the following weekend, Amanda greeted him at the door with her usual enthusiasm, throwing her arms around him and peppering him with questions about his trip. Grace, standing behind Amanda, gave Kevin a warm hug and asked about his travels in her gentle, understated way. After settling in, Kevin retrieved the audio recorder from its hiding spot while Amanda was out running errands. He sat in his car, his heart pounding as he pressed play. What he heard confirmed his worst fears. The recordings captured Amanda's sharp and dismissive tone when speaking to Grace, belittling her for the smallest things. Why don't you make yourself useful for once? Amanda snapped in one instance. You're just sitting around all day while I do everything. Grace's responses were calm but tinged with quiet resignation. I'm sorry, Amanda. I didn't mean to inconvenience you. The recording also included conversations Amanda had with her friends when they visited. It's exhausting having her around all the time, Amanda complained, her voice dripping with irritation. She just sits there like a statue. I swear, if Kevin wasn't so attached to her, I wouldn't put up with this. Kevin's grip tightened on the recorder as he listened. He felt a storm of emotions: anger, disappointment, sadness, but above all, a sense of betrayal. The woman he loved and trusted had been hiding her true self, not just from him, but from his mother, who had done nothing but show kindness and patience. As Kevin sat in the car, his mind raced. He knew he couldn't confront Amanda without thinking through his next steps carefully. This wasn't just about exposing her behavior, it was about protecting his mother and ensuring their home was a place of respect and peace. He resolved to handle the situation with the care and precision it demanded. The next morning, Kevin woke up determined to take the first step toward uncovering the truth in a way that left no room for manipulation or denial. He wanted Amanda to face her actions without an immediate confrontation that could escalate into an argument. Instead, he devised a plan to force her to confront the reality of her behavior while still protecting Grace from further hurt. At breakfast, Kevin casually mentioned that he had found an old camcorder in the attic and thought it might be fun to set it up in the living room to capture candid family moments. Amanda raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard by the suggestion. A camcorder? Isn't that a bit outdated? She asked, her voice laced with nervous laughter. Kevin shrugged. Maybe, but it's nostalgic, don't you think? It'll be nice to look back on these moments one day. Grace, sitting quietly as usual, gave Kevin a faint smile. That sounds lovely, Kevin, she said softly. Amanda didn't protest further, but Kevin noticed the flicker of unease in her expression. He set up the camcorder on a bookshelf in the living room, making it clear that it was recording throughout the day. He didn't mention the fact that the camcorder's settings allowed it to record sound as well as video, ensuring that every interaction would be captured. Throughout the day, Amanda was on her best behavior. She spoke to Grace with exaggerated politeness, offering to help her with small tasks and even suggesting they play a game of cards together. Grace seemed puzzled by the sudden shift in Amanda's demeanor but didn't question it. Kevin played along, acting as though he believed Amanda's performance, but inwardly he felt a mixture of frustration and sadness. Watching Amanda put on an act made him realize how deeply she had deceived him, not just in her treatment of Grace but in the way she had constructed an image of herself that was far from the truth. That evening, Kevin reviewed the footage alone in his study. While Amanda's behavior during the day had been perfectly polished, the recordings from the previous days, when Amanda wasn't aware of the camcorder, told a different story. The camera captured moments when Amanda's mask slipped completely. She was dismissive and condescending toward Grace, speaking to her with a sharpness that contrasted starkly with the affection she displayed when Kevin was around. There were even moments when Amanda mocked Grace under her breath, clearly believing no one could hear her. Kevin's heart sank as he watched. He couldn't ignore what he was seeing, nor could he pretend that this was an isolated issue. Amanda's behavior wasn't just unkind, it was calculated, designed to ensure that Kevin never saw the side of her that Grace had been enduring in silence. The final straw came when Kevin heard Amanda speaking to one of her friends on the phone. "Honestly, I don't know how much longer I can put up with Grace," she said, her tone dripping with irritation. "If Kevin weren't so attached to her, I'd have her out of here in a heartbeat. But, of course, I have to play the perfect daughter-in-law for his sake." Kevin paused the video, his emotions swirling. He felt a deep sense of betrayal, but more than that, he felt a fierce need to protect his mother. Grace had endured enough, and Kevin couldn't allow Amanda to continue treating her this way. As Kevin sat in his study, staring at the paused image on the screen, he made a decision. The time for observation was over. It was time to bring everything to light, not to punish Amanda, but to seek the truth and restore peace to their home. He knew that confronting Amanda would be difficult, but it was a step he needed to take for the sake of his mother and their family. The following morning, Kevin decided it was time to move forward with confronting Amanda, but he knew the confrontation couldn't be impulsive. He wanted to create an environment where Amanda couldn't deny or manipulate the truth. After all, this wasn't just about addressing her behavior, it was about ensuring that Grace was respected and cared for in her own home. At breakfast, Kevin remained quiet, his thoughts turning over the plan he had pieced together the night before. Amanda, sensing his mood, asked, "Everything okay, honey? You've been so quiet this morning." Kevin forced a small smile. "Just thinking about some family matters I want to address later. I'll tell you more tonight." Amanda nodded, but Kevin noticed her glance toward Grace, who was silently buttering her toast. Grace, as always, seemed content to let the conversation pass her by, but Kevin saw a shadow of apprehension in her eyes. Later that evening, Kevin gathered Amanda and Grace in the living room. Amanda sat on the couch, her usual confidence on full display, while Grace took her seat quietly, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Kevin stood near the bookshelf where the camcorder had been set up, his expression serious but calm. "I've been thinking about something," Kevin began, his voice steady but firm. "I believe in openness and honesty in this family. And lately, I've felt like there's been a disconnect between what I see and what's really happening in this house." Amanda tilted her head, her voice tinged with confusion. "What do you mean, Kevin? We've been getting along fine, haven't we?" Kevin nodded slowly. "That's what I thought, too. But then I started noticing little things. Things that didn't quite add up. So I decided to look deeper." He reached for the camcorder and pressed play. Amanda's expression changed immediately as the recordings began to play. At first, she appeared confused, but as her own voice filled the room, sharp, dismissive, and mocking, her face drained of color. Amanda started, but Kevin held up a hand to stop her. "Please, let's watch this through," he said, his tone calm but resolute. The room fell silent except for the sound of the recordings. Grace sat still, her eyes fixed on her lap, as Amanda's harsh words echoed through the room. When the footage reached the phone conversation where Amanda had openly admitted to pretending in front of Kevin, Amanda buried her face in her hands. When the video ended, Kevin turned off the camcorder and looked at Amanda. "I didn't want to believe this, Amanda. But I needed to see the truth for myself. You've been unkind to someone who has done nothing but show you respect and love." Amanda's voice trembled as she tried to respond. "Kevin, it's not what it looks like. I was just stressed, Anne." "No," Kevin interrupted, his voice firmer now. "This isn't about stress. This is about how you've chosen to treat my mother when you thought I wasn't watching. And the worst part is, you knew what you were doing was wrong. That's why you pretended otherwise when I was around." Grace finally looked up, her voice soft but steady. "Amanda, I never wanted to cause trouble between you and Kevin. I just hoped we could all live together peacefully." Tears filled Amanda's eyes as she looked at Grace. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just overwhelmed, and I handled it poorly. I know I've been unfair to you." Kevin sighed, his anger tempered by sadness. "Amanda, this isn't about apologies right now. It's about change. I need to know that you're willing to make an effort to build a better relationship with my mom, for real this time." Amanda nodded, her tears falling freely. "I will, Kevin. I promise I'll do better. I'll prove it to you." Kevin glanced at Grace, who gave a small nod of acknowledgement. "We'll take this one step at a time," Kevin said. "But this family needs to be built on respect, trust, and kindness. That's non-negotiable." The weight in the room began to lift slightly as Amanda's remorseful expression deepened. Kevin knew this wasn't the end of the journey, but it was a necessary step toward healing and rebuilding their family dynamic. The days following the confrontation marked a noticeable change in the household. Amanda seemed determined to show Kevin and Grace that her apology wasn't just empty words. She started by making small gestures. Helping Grace with chores, engaging her in genuine conversation, and even suggesting they cook together, an activity that had once been a bonding moment between Grace and Kevin. Kevin observed these efforts with cautious optimism. While he wanted to believe Amanda's sincerity, he knew true change would take time and consistency. Grace, on the other hand, approached Amanda's gestures with quiet grace, never mentioning the past but responding with kindness. One evening, Kevin decided it was time for a family meeting. He gathered Amanda and Grace in the living room, the same place where they had faced the hard truths just days earlier. This time, though, the atmosphere was warmer, lighter. "I wanted to take a moment to talk," Kevin began, his tone calm but firm. "I've seen the changes you've been making, Amanda. I appreciate the effort, and I hope it's coming from a genuine place." Amanda nodded, her expression earnest. "It is, Kevin. I've been reflecting a lot, and I realize now how unfair I've been. Grace, I want you to know how truly sorry I am for the way I treated you. You didn't deserve any of it." Grace smiled softly, her voice gentle. "Thank you, Amanda. I believe in moving forward, and I hope we can build a relationship based on understanding and respect." Kevin felt a swell of pride at his mother's forgiving nature. Turning to Amanda, he added, "This family has gone through a rough patch, but I believe we can come out stronger. Let's commit to open communication and treating each other with kindness." Amanda reached for Grace's hand, squeezing it lightly. "I promise I'll keep working on this. I want us to be a family in every sense of the word." That night, as Kevin watched Amanda and Grace chatting over a cup of tea, he felt a deep sense of relief. It was a small step, but it was progress. The home that had felt fractured just a week ago was beginning to heal, and for the first time in a long time, Kevin felt hopeful. As the story concludes, remember that the power of kindness, humility, and forgiveness can transform even the most strained relationships. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Storytelling and Beyond for more heartwarming and inspiring tales. Until next time, take care and spread kindness wherever you go.